Hey, this is Azel. Have you ever had that moment, that one where a song or a piece of art hits you right in the guts? Like the artist somehow knew exactly what you were feeling? There's just something magical about that moment. It helps us feel understood and can even be healing. In today's episode, we sat down with David, someone who lives and breathes music. His passion was contagious, and the conversation left us all inspired to explore new ways of expressing who we are. Trust me, you won't want to miss out on this one.
Honestly, this has been something I have been wanting for forever, was mics that we don't have to hold. I'm sure you don't know, considering this is your first time here.
My first time here, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is industry standard.
Yeah. We didn't have these. We had like the normal, like imagine like a rock star up on stage with the stand, have to hold them.
Everybody was Jagger.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty awesome. Pretty rock and roll.
Very, very not nice when you talk with your hands. Because then you sound like this and it's really not good.
I refuse. I'm just a piano player. I can't actually control my arms.
So I take it you're a bit of a music guy?
Take it. I'm a bit of a music guy. Yes, I am. Are we actually live right now?
Yes, I have it recorded.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Not live, though. No, we're not live.
Oh,
We're just
yeah. I was not
recording.
told
Yeah.
we were hot.
Before we totally jump in, do you know, I don't know if you
No,
met
I think I
all of
only
these
know
wonderful-
Marcus and Taryn at this table.
Okay.
So I might have seen you guys before, and I apologize if I've, made introductions, but no, I'm terrible with that. So what's your name over here?
My name is Azel.
Hi, Azel. It's nice to meet you. I'm David.
Nice to meet you as well.
Yeah.
What do you do exactly?
I am primarily a freelance musician here in town. I've also worked in the computer technology fields, worked with the district in a couple of different ways. But yeah, I'm a musician through and through. Yeah. And
I'm Nicole. It's nice to meet you.
Nicole, nice to meet you too. Hazel, Nicole.
I'm Lee.
Hi, Lee.
Very nice to meet you.
Likewise. And Marcus, hello.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
I'm Marcus.
Hello, I am Marcus too. I am Spartacus.
So as we are expanding this podcast, we made a list of people that we'd want to get on for an episode. And you were actually on the top of my list because of your talent for music, but also your involvement in the community here in Crescent City. Every play that I've been in, you've been playing your piano and guiding the orchestra. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, honestly, playing with either a pit orchestra or just supporting a theater cast is one of the most fascinating and, I would say, communicative parts of being a musician. It's
Communicative.
It's always very improvisatory in a way, but the ways that music will kind of help transcend the nervousness of being on stage, the first timers when they all of a sudden find out that when they can be another character, they are happier than can be. I find the theater to be a really good source of just comfort with people that have never had experience performing before, especially in a town like Crescent City too, where this might be their first time performing on stage. I've been on stage a number of times and find that being behind the scenes is even more fun, especially when you kind of have control over the ship. And being the music director for the last few plays for LRT, which is the Lighthouse Repertory Theater, has shown so much just potential for making new relationships and seeing people kind of come out into themselves. So
Absolutely. I remember, when did I start theater?
This is Crescent City. It was the first time that I saw you back in the day.
Well, that was LRT. That was my
With
first one
LRT,
there.
that was the first time I met
Yeah.
you. Yes,
I did a couple in like elementary school, but like the first actual one was like, when was that? I think that was my freshman year or like summer of 8th grade. At least for me, I did This is Crescent City. I remember that one distinctly. Just because it was such a great production, but like you said, being able to get out of my shell and sort of embrace that theater aspect, it was by far my favorite play that I've ever been in personally. Is that one?
Not My Fair Lady, huh?
Well, I mean, I don't know. That one was fun though. Yeah. I mean, I gotta play some Hungarian dude. And that was cool.
Yeah, I think This Is Crescent City kind of gave you a chance to find a different version of yourself, which is also cool.
Yeah.
So, David, what motivates you to like share your music with the community, especially the youth?
Well, the youth is kind of an extension of the overall question. I have been a musician since the time that I could form conscious thought. Most of my thoughts actually come in the form of sound and music in general. I remember sitting down at a piano when I could form my earliest memories, probably 3 or 4 years old, and just noticing that if I pressed a key in a certain way, it sounded like me talking in an abstract kind of way. And as I learned kind of the patterns and the way that the piano worked, which was my first instrument. I picked up others along the way, but the piano in particular, when you arrange sound in a certain way, it feels like feeling and it sounds like talking. And the desire to communicate in a way that didn't necessitate me having to use words was very appealing. Because as much of a talker as I've become in my life, I've always kind of had a nonverbal experience in a lot of ways. And the ability to express myself through sound was very appealing. So, but as far as sharing it with the community, I mean, I became a performer when I was 6 or 7. I remember doing my first recital when I was probably 7 years old, and knowing that, oh my gosh, I can say things and people respond to it in a certain way, and I was hooked. And everything beyond that point has just been narrowing down and refining what kinds of things I want to say, and sharing that with people that also might have that experience of trying to communicate in ways that don't require speaking is very important. But I've been on stage in operas.
Really?
A handful of times, yeah. And
That is so cool.
it is a lot of fun. Opera is just kind of a more...
Where did you do that at?
I did that while I was in school in Texas. I went to school at Rice University, and the couple of not operas, but operettas, technically, that I was a part of. I was a trumpet player / security guard / assistant to the queen. And
She's like security guard in the play, or
yes,
security guard in
the
real
play.
life?
Well, no, in the play. I've never met a queen in real life. Well, actually, I don't know. That's a different conversation, though. But being on stage for that was a lot of fun. I've unfortunately not had a lot of time to act as well as play music, but
Which would you like better? Like what's I mean, what I'm trying to get at is what's the main difference between the two, would you say, in your experience?
there really isn't. One of the coolest parts about performing music is if you are playing a piece written by somebody else, your job as a musician is to transcend time and portray what that composer thought their imagination sounded like. And so when I play Chopin, Bach, or anybody even farther back than that, I try to envision what their life was like. I try to see what kinds of things they were focused on, what was important to them, and put that into the music that I play. And I think that acting is exactly the same, right? You have to become the character and then explore from within that to find your own interpretation.
Yeah, I understand
love that.
I kind of understand that in a little bit of a, maybe not as similar sense. That's kind of something that I've been on is, all kinds of art really tend to bleed into each other in so many ways. Poetry is music. Music is poetry, and there's music in, musicals that also has poetry in it. And, it's all about just, expressing those emotions and conveying a thought or a feeling or an idea in a way that in a loss for words transcends words.
Yes, right. Well, and the feeling is really the most important part of all that. The feeling, and music is all about feelings. And beyond anything, if you find a piece that makes you feel a certain way, your goal is to make your audience feel that same way, or even introduce your feeling to their feelings in a way that creates an entirely new feeling, right? And it's that kind of non-prescriptive communication that makes music so exciting, because I've heard and performed the same piece dozens or hundreds of times, and every time I visit it, it is different. Every time I hear it, every time I experience it, it is different. And so are feelings, right? You can remember how you felt at a certain point in your life. You can remember how a certain experience made you feel in that moment, but then when you reflect on it, it has a totally different feeling too, which is important because, time is just a blink, and every blink is different.
On the topic of feelings, what are your thoughts of like music in forms of like therapy or healing?
Music therapy is one of my fascinations. It has been for a while. It's been one of my own therapies for my entire life. Every time I have something very difficult that I'm going through, I turn to music. I find that it gives me an outlet into the nothing, right? That is life. That I can feel everything I want to feel, and it's meaningfully temporary. And the feeling of just pouring everything of yourself and that moment into the craft is incredibly potent, knowing that once you're done, you're done. As far as music therapy as a practical application goes, I find music therapy to be a really interesting field because the ways that music accesses the brain, accesses, your emotions, is so beyond any other kind of communication that we have. Like talk therapy and, cognitive behavioral therapy all have these really cool ways of transforming the way that you think about your experience. But music will just take you there instantly and bypass a whole lot of these, things that get tangled up. And music therapy is one of the things that people have been doing in studies of dementia patients and Alzheimer patients and people that are dealing with, PTSD and all of these things that make being a conscious being so difficult. And like the one study that keeps coming to mind, we talked about it when we were, getting together the first time, with memory loss patients. They will teach them a song and have them input their personal information partway through the song. Be like, hey, my name is such and such, and I live at such and such address. And first responders have been trained to begin this song. And those people that they pick up, if they get, lost or whatever else, will just automatically input the information from the song into their response.
That is so cool.
Yeah,
Really
it's super fascinating.
I don't know too much about music therapy myself, but I know like I'm not a big music buff or anything. I just listened to it and I played when I was in like the 6th grade. But when I'm going through hard times or feeling stressed out, I like to listen to music that has the same vibe of how I'm feeling because it makes me feel like someone like understands where I'm coming from almost.
Yeah. Well, and so in music therapy, they call that receptive therapy. So you are already in a certain state and you seek things that will make you even more receptive to whatever things you're processing at that moment.
One of the thoughts I keep having is that music is a universal language, right? And I, of course, am thinking about the way that our brain processes information from the bottom up, right? And if you all remember, where do we actually process language, like words, in our brain?
The cortex.
In the smart part, right? The super smart part.
Level 4.
Right? And that's where cognitive behavioral therapy, that's the part of the brain that those therapies target, right? And then as an extension, just to think about language for a minute, because it's important, language is the limitation of our worldview. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
there are concepts, for example, like that Japanese people practice that we don't even have. Like, we can't even talk about it, say, like in America, because we just don't have the language for it. Like, the words don't translate, right? And this is a challenge when people try to learn other languages, is there can be these concepts that just don't translate into another language. So anyway, thinking about what you're saying about how music appeals to the brain. Now, the part of our brain that is always monitoring our environment is our brainstem, and that is 100% nonverbal. The brainstem does not process any language. Brainstem processes tone, facial expression, body movements, right? And so I think part of what I'm just speculating, right? But part of why music therapy is so powerful in doing what you're saying and engaging both parts of the brain is because on its root level, it's appealing to the brainstem because there's no words, right? It's simply tone and cadence and, all of those things. And then when we add the language on top, our cortex is more open to hear it because we're regulated because of that music.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Well, and that's why when somebody says, my favorite song is this because of these words on top of the feeling that the music produces. And that's really what it is. I've had endless conversations with mostly musically trained people, because when you were educated within the musical field, you kind of understand, you are broken down the parts of music that make the feeling of music the feeling. And then when you add the words on top of that, they have already baked into them this component of emotion, right? So when somebody says they listen to this song just for the words, it's not just for the words, right? The words are the icing on the cake, and they may, and generally within that field, they are produced in such a way where it will add to that feeling. But yeah, no, you're absolutely right. The union between that base operation and processing center and the elevated, like, conscious reasoning is just mind-blowingly effective.
It really is.
It really is.
Well, and what you said just made me think of one more thing. And I think I've said it to you all before, but like, the music is actually what creates the feeling, because you could put a completely different sound underneath those words.
Yeah.
And then those words would mean something completely different.
The music is the moment.
Makes me think of a video I saw where someone was talking to a dog in a hateful manner, but with a loving voice, and the dog was still wagging its tail. But then it was
Same with babies. And even more fascinating, the studies where people have played different kinds of music with different emotional centers for plants. And the plants will grow more when you play music that is soothing. Versus, I don't know, Cannibal Corpse comes to mind.
This is why I love, like, hippy dippy doodah stupid stuff like that, because it has truth to it. Like, there is such thing as good vibrations and good earth vibrations and whatnot, and that comes from real science, like with music. I'm a bit of a musician myself. I've not too much, but I compose my own music sometimes, and I noticed that I'm a big fan of music theory, right? I like to study a little bit. and I notice if I just follow the rules perfectly, and I compose something like that, and I hear it, and even if I play with the rhythm and I play with the chords, I might make it augmented or whatever and not follow the straight, classic chord progression or whatnot that the internet tells me to do. I write that out and I feel nothing. I feel nothing of the piece. It sounds like those corporate ad music, because that's probably what they do.
Yeah,
right?
It's jargon.
But if I sit there, and sometimes if I make chords that I don't even know what this is, right? I'd have to look it up, and it's like an A7 add 11 diminished whatever doodah, right? But if I write that and then I put it there and then I make it in a way that it feels like what I'm thinking, which is really, really hard, and a lot of the time I can't do it. But when I do, and I make something that I actually feel for, I feel so much better.
Yeah. Well, and here's a question to the general table as well. With thinking in general and speaking, communicating in general, how often do you 100% nail the mark of what you're trying to say? Maybe 0.01%.
Yeah, not
Yeah.
often.
Only
Not
if it's
very often.
only if it's like a 3-word sentence. I don't think I could go up to like 4 or 5 words without fudging it.
But my goodness, if I try to come up with a thought with 3 chords in music, it would be very difficult. And it's exactly the same way. Yeah, what you just described is the abstraction of communication, right? And poets do it all the time too, and in a much more, kind of dissectable way, because we're talking about syntax and grammar and whether or not it is correct, right? We've all gone through grammar class, presumably, and we can tell if they are using language that is not quite right. But when it's not, just like you were describing with your A7 diminished 11 doo-ha, sometimes when they don't do it correctly, he said in air quotes, it's the most potent. And music is the same way. The extensions of feeling across music have so much more to do with whatever you're feeling than whatever you're supposed to be feeling.
Okay, I'm having another giant,
Please, yes, I
giant
love
thing.
it.
Aha. Okay, so one of the things we know about one of the I want to one I'm trying to be impeccable with my words. So one of the things that we know can really help us heal is having the language to explain what's happened to us, right? And that's one of the places that we see talk therapy be really effective for people, is they're able to put words to the feelings, right? But what I'm hearing is like an extension of that, whereas in music, it's really the same thing, right? Like being able to name the feeling, but rather than using words to do it, using that, I can't say the same example Marcus gave us, the B minor or whatever,
Yeah, whatever.
But my
Yeah.
point is that it's still this, like it's the same means to an end, right? The point is when we experience difficult things, we have to be able to integrate that into our system in a way that we can actually understand what's happened, right? And one way we know that we can do that is through talking about it. But what I'm hearing in this conversation is another way we can do that is finding the music that can help us express that exact same feeling, right?
Yes, precisely. And as an improviser, so coming up with music on the spot, I've made up music for as long as I could understand music, and I think a lot of people start that way. Just like when toddlers and adolescents are learning how to speak, they experiment with different ways of saying what they really want to say, and a lot of times it goes outside the bounds of the examples that they're given, and some of the most poignant and accurate to the moment of feeling music that I've ever come up with has made very little theoretical sense, right? But it makes sense. It feels correct. And the moment that idea takes hold of you feels completely third person. Like it's no longer myself playing. It's this idea that is guiding me. And it's this kind of this world that gets open up. And all of a sudden I'm playing here and the idea takes me there. And there's always something over here. And then it can be up here. And then it can be over there. And the exploration of that amorphous, illogical feeling is the most sincere and genuine human experience that I have, And, I play jazz, I play classical, I play, funk, all these different things, but it's usually when things go off the rails a little bit where I feel the most at home. Just like in a conversation where you have no idea what you're trying to say, and then all of a sudden, boom, it clicks. And it's all of a sudden, now I got it. That feeling of I'm alive now, and I need to share that. That's the cool part.
I hope
The
you don't
best way
mind.
I could,
Go ahead. Sorry. My bad.
sorry. The best way that I could describe it in my opinion. I've never gotten that far to where you're describing it, where it's like there's nothing but feeling. But I understand what you're saying about feeling like you're in third person. Because I will play songs, and one of the things that I really like about playing guitar is I can play and I can sing at the same time. So you have those words over it, and you can do kind of whatever you want, right? And one thing that I like to do is play music not in front of an audience, because then you can do whatever the heck you want, and no one cares if you mess up or anything like that. So if you're playing and you're really feeling that sort of emotion, it can almost feel like you're floating on top of water. Is a great way that I like to think about it, because nothing really else matters in that moment. You're comfortable, you're alone, and you're just playing. No one can hear you but yourself, and that is your most important audience, because you're not... What I'm trying to say is my favorite kind of music that I play is when I'm alone and not in front of an audience. Because when you're in front of an audience, like you said, you want to travel back in time, you want to take that composer and you want to provide what they are thinking. When you are by yourself, you don't need to do that. You need to provide yourself with what you're thinking. And you can allow yourself to know what is sort of going on in that inner headspace that's so hard to reach without it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I want to respond to that, but I want to let Lee talk as well.
Well, in response to that, I was just going to say, I see it as more of a sense of, if you're going to be, doing art and you're trying to come up with something with other people around, I find that immediately I become performative, right? I become so focused on the fact that there's other people around me that, I need to be perfect. I need to get this down now. The first time, I'm being watched. And so, if you're trying to like express yourself, or, like create art, yes, it is so much better to do it by yourself, because then it's just you alone with your thoughts, which is kind of what you need to do to be able to, you need to analyze your thoughts if you want to be able to translate them into something else.
So I'm going to respond in backwards order, because that opens up a conversation that I would love to talk about. Art and artistic expression. There are some media, I guess, that do serve very well to be curated alone, right? You can really explore what it is you're trying to articulate and all of these other things. But I will tell you that, especially with music and other even performative arts, the real magic that I have found is finding the spot where you feel alone together. Right? And not even just alone together, but feel comfortable together. Yeah. And that's really, I think, where you were going. Like the comfort and the safety and security that you have while exploring something new and weird and inarticulatable while alone is so much easier to carve out. But when you can transcend that and share an experience with somebody else, that's the magic. Like there are, and going back to Marcus and his comments, there are moments where when I am playing for myself and playing alone, that I have discovered magic that I don't think anybody else has ever found, right? Which is super exciting. And also it feels really weird to try and share that with somebody, right? But then when you go down that same path with somebody else, and it is a rockier path, like you have to try a few more times to find that with somebody else, the end experience is so much more rewarding and fulfilling when, just like when you're hanging out with your friends, like you can go to the river, you can have an amazing day, you can stare up into the trees and look at the sun come through and just enjoy the world and enjoy the life that we're given. But when you do that with somebody else, it's just a little bit brighter. Yeah. It's a little bit more magical. And music is the same way.
Can I jump in?
Please do. Yeah.
So with the way our brains work, there are 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion. And no 2 people have the same worldview. No 2 people. So the moment you get two people together, what you have to do is like basically create consensus about the worldview that you're going to have together, right? And like those are all of the things that I'm kind of hearing under what you all are talking about, right? So at some point I've got to reach out and get another person to co-create like a new world of understanding with me for what, and when we're thinking about trauma, specifically around like those painful things that have happened to us, right? And then somebody helps us witness it, and then somebody helps us rewrite it, and now we have a new, safer worldview.
Yeah, I refer to that as overcoming the universal language barrier of the human experience.
I love that way you say that one more time.
Overcoming the universal language barrier of the human experience. But the words are important too, because I mean, what other evolutionary mechanism do we have?
Art.
Well, yeah, art is absolutely one of those mechanisms, and that's why it's so exciting, right? Because and going back to the different worldviews, I mean, like you can put a room of 1,000 people with the Mona Lisa in front of them, and there will be 1,000. Well, okay, let's call it 950 different interpretations. The other 50 are just kind of like, yeah, she looks bored.
Yeah.
Maybe more than 50. But sorry, Lee, you were trying to talk for a little while. Do you still remember?
I was kind of just wanting to, if I'm going to be so honest, circle back to, you had mentioned the, like the patients with dementia, Alzheimer's. And that kind of reminded me, when I was younger, my mom, she was always anxious about me like getting her again in trouble. And so she made me, reasonably so, memorize her phone number. And being a small child, that came rather difficult to me to remember a really long like series of numbers. And so she started like singing it to me, right? I could say it now because it's not her phone number anymore, but I'll probably might briefly, but it was like.
But I'm more curious about what the song it is. Yeah, come on.
707-951-6890. No real tune to it, just like a rhythm, and I still remember it. She taught me that when I was like 6, 7, and I still remember it. That's not her number. It hasn't been for years. I'm sorry. I mean, that was about how old I was. But I'm not sure what it is about it, but there's just something about, rhythm and music and sound that kind of like lights up our memory centers. Oh, yeah. Especially rhyming. And that was the other thing I wanted to bring up was recently I was put in charge of building the Readers Theater at Del Norte Reads. So I get to like build the entire program and put on plays for the younger children to perform for their parents. And something that I was trying to keep in mind the entire time was I need to make the scripts rhyme, right? I don't have to, but imagine, watching your kid, saying a line and then another kid says a line and it rhymes with the last one. That's just cute. But not just that, but, if I'm expecting, so you're expected to teach these kids these plays in such a short amount of time. If I make it rhyme, they're going to learn that so much easier. I find it very interesting.
Well, sure. I mean, like, I know at least a couple of songs that I could start and everybody here could finish. Everybody join me. A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right, exactly. Sing. Right, yeah. And so, I mean, like, the reason that is a thing is because it's a thing, right? The ways that our brains, collective, like, I suppose, fine. I'll allow the plural this time. It's the plural. Fine. The way our brain, I'm going to go with singular this time. Our brain processes things is with this kind of cross communication between all of these different centers. And just like with the Animaniacs, like Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Loved Animaniacs when I was
Columbus
younger.
is the capital of Ohio. The second you put a song to something, all of the memory retention centers just light up, and it's amazing. So yes, rhyming does work very well. Slant rhyme, not so much. Avoid slant rhyme if you're going to be right.
What does that mean?
Slant rhyme is when something kind of rhymes on paper, but it doesn't really rhyme.
Yeah, I know. What you're
Like
talking
orange and porridge.
Yes, that's actually one of the closer slant rhymes that I am familiar with. So well done.
I would just like to ramble a little bit about
Please
the why
ramble, yeah.
to that, because there is a solid why. Why music is so appealing to humans. And I think we've talked about it before, but so let's first say I'm touching my fingers together to the people in the table as I'm telling this story. So all learning is memory. Could we agree with that? That makes sense, right? And how we establish memory is two things co-occur at the same time with enough repetition that creates a memory, right? We call those neural pathways. Everybody's with me so far,
Yeah.
right? Well, the universal human experience, all of us start in utero. Would you agree with that? And for most of us, this is where this isn't all of us, but in general, most of us, our regulation, all of our needs are 100% met this whole entire time. We're not hungry. We're not thirsty. We don't need to use the restroom. The temperature is perfect, right? That in utero environment is perfect. It's 100% regulation. And what is co-occurring with that human experience? You all tell me, what does every in utero baby hear for 9 months while they're...
Ba-bum, ba-bum,
Yep.
ba-bum, ba-bum.
So what two things are co-occurring? Regulation. I am 100% regulated. I have no needs. My life is perfect. Is getting paired with rhythmic repetition. Predominantly mom's heartbeat, but we also hear mom's lungs. We hear mom's bowel movements.
Steps.
We hear the steps. We hear the chatter outside. So literally the foundation of being a human, what gets wired together is rhythmic repetition and regulation. And so music continues to regulate us all throughout our lives. And again, like those music goes straight to our brainstem, and our brainstem is where all processing starts. No human can circumvent that everything starts to process from the bottom up, right? So that music, that rhythmic repetition just taps into the core of our being that says, hey, I'm regulated, all is well. Because there's ba-bump, ba-bump, ba-bump. This is also the reason we go for car rides with people and tell them way more about ourselves than we meant to.
That's actually my auntie's tactic whenever I'm not feeling good. She goes, Lee, let's go for a car ride and we could talk about what's going on. And I always hate it because I never want to sit here and talk about my feelings with my auntie. And every single time I do.
You know what's so funny about that is humans know that. Humans will take friends or kids or whatever for walks or get them in the car, and they know that people will open up that way. What humans a lot of times don't know is there's a real mechanism for that, and that goes back to what I was just explaining, the role of rhythmic repetition in helping us feel regulated. So it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's literally like neurobiological.
Yeah, basically biohacking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So as you were talking about the craving of repetition and the rhythms that we were pre-born with. Before I respond to that, Nicole, did you have something?
Yes, but it's not a music question. So can
Please, yeah, no, I'll circle back to that. Yeah.
Okay, so this is a really important question that we ask all of our guests on this podcast. Are you ready for it?
I sure hope so.
Okay. What is your favorite type of cheese?
By and large, you can't go wrong with the triple cream brie.
Okay.
Okay.
That's 2 strikes for brie?
Yeah, I think so at this point.
I didn't know we were populated amongst such brie enjoyers.
Neither did I.
Okay, but the real question is, in what context?
Just like cheese in general.
Right, you're sitting in your bathtub, right? You got the bubbles on. You got one of those fancy bathtubs,
All right,
little
okay,
jets
so
by your tippy
here
toes.
we go.
I'm not done. I'm not done.
Please
you
continue.
got crackers and you got wine and you're sitting there and you got Seinfeld on and you got the jets between your tippy toes.
All fancy.
What are you eating?
Okay, so with wine, crackers, and Seinfeld, I'm going to say Gorgonzola.
What? You can't just make up words, David. I don't.
I'm sorry. You invite me to a podcast, blitz me with a question about cheese, and don't know what Gorgonzola is? What kind of establishment is this?
Maybe
It's
we're
not a
that
Gouda
educated.
answer. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, please.
Clearly not as big cheese enthusiast as you. So
Yeah, you're being
Clearly
paid
not.
off by big cheese.
Yeah.
I think all that's happening is that due to age, there's just a little more like time for cheese trying on this end of the table than
That's
on this
true.
end of the table.
Yes,
right?
maybe if this podcast was on Wensleydale, you might have a Gouda idea about good cheeses.
Your joke's really cheesy.
Thank you.
It was my joke. I've been robbed and discredited. That's called plagiarism.
Too late, Marcus.
I couldn't come up with a good cheese pun for plagiarism, but I'll come up with Parmesan. That's the closest one. Okay. Returning, please, if we can, to what I find so interesting about art and music is how baked into classicism and even like patriarchal structure and, you know, like how much money people had access to. And the same thing applies to so many other kinds of expression that we see. Like back in the 16, 17, 1800s, the only kind of music that was produced and is still knowable today is the people that had access to scribes. Like the printing press came out in what, 18... Come on, one of the people in the education system here. 1860-ish.
You say that you're the history buff.
I don't know.
Sorry, Gutenberg.
Isn't it?
There's a cheese pun. Gutenberg. There we
I
go.
got a feeling it's the late.
Yeah,
I think it's the late 1600s. If I'm
Is it? Yeah, 1600s.
Yeah.
Not 18s.
1440.
14s.
Holy!
Well, even still, wow, you just peaked that microphone pretty good.
Thank you.
So the kinds of music that survived to be from those eras that we still hear today were only the wealthy. Right. And
that
so,
makes sense.
yeah. And so as we progress more and more, the kinds of people that had more edgy things to say in a more edgy way, they finally could be heard.
That's why I love folk music.
Yeah. Well, and folk music, I have a lot of opinions about, but as far as, I don't want to say higher art in a higher art kind of way, but the avant-garde and all of these other things, like the postmodernists in particular, they weren't known because they didn't survive the test of time, right? So the last 100 years or so, we know them now because they're recorded.
Yeah, and the same is true for yeah, you're absolutely right. Like the same is true for literature, right? Like the literature that we study as part of the canon is the literature that was preserved by people that had access to preserve what they were writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have lost just mounds of artists and art because there were no means for that to survive.
Well, and I mean, like within the classical world, at least, the famous comparison is the Mozart and Salieri. You know, everybody knows the name Mozart, and only the classical nerds know Salieri because he was another contemporary of Mozart, composing at the same time, contemporary. Same with people around Beethoven's time. There were hundreds and hundreds of amazing musicians that were writing during that time that just didn't survive because they weren't part of that archetype. Yeah.
So that reminded me too, similarly, not the same, but like Edison is known for the light bulb, right? And he's not the dude that created it.
I know.
He's the guy that had the money
To get it patented.
to get,
Yeah.
But it was, I had to look it up really quick. Joseph Swan.
Who?
Like Tesla. Tesla, right?
yeah.
Well, it looks like there's a couple different, but the point is that whoever has the means to secure the thing, that's what gets passed down, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Walt Disney did not write a lot of the stories. He had a lot of people paid to write the stories and got a lot of fame because of it, but he wasn't the person who made all of the great things that he stood upon.
That he gets credit for.
Oh
right?
gosh, I mean, even today in 2020, God, what is it now? 6? Most women write under pseudonyms. Like it's still a big deal that, men get published, women don't. And it's been a thing in the music world as well. Like Robert Schumann is one of the famous classical era composers. And at least, as historians say, 60% of his catalog was composed by his wife, Clara Schumann.
Yeah.
Even Einstein got notes from his wife.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I read a cool article the other day about the theory of relativity itself was from not his wife, but a woman that he had worked with before he worked for Patent Office. And
I can say expression can be found in any type of art. I personally like more abstract methods.
like...
Well, I personally like making art without any reference, and that takes me hours of looking at a page, sometimes even just thinking out there to try and express something that I can't express using my own art. I also like punk rock.
So do I, actually. Punk rock is one of my favorite, kind of off styles that I listen to more regularly than people would expect. As a classically educated musician, I listen to a lot of really out there stuff.
I'll say, you're very talented. You seem very, very passionate about this. And one of the things I've heard about Crescent City the most from, my peers is that there are no opportunities here. So, if you don't mind me asking, why did you come to Crescent City? And more importantly, why did you choose to stay?
I came to Crescent City let me give you my whole life story real quick. I came to Crescent City because I was very far away from my family. I had created a life for myself that was very exciting and was very challenging. And there are certain elements of being a musician and an artist that if your personal life is suffering, then your craft suffers, because your craft is you, right? And I got into a point in my personal life where my craft was suffering. And so I decided to come somewhere safe. And I stayed because it felt like home before too long.
Yeah, it's very beautiful here.
That too. I mean, I came here from Texas, and my blood is at least 5 degrees too thick for Texas. And I feel like I can properly explain myself in this climate. So that was a big part. And the Wild River Symphony is such an interesting little microcosm of this place here, because there are some really, really talented musicians. And then there's the community musicians, and everybody works together to make something that works, right? That makes a pleasurable experience for the musicians playing and for the audience, and wrapping it up in a nice bow about communication, right? The kinds of feelings about what are we doing here? What are we doing, period? And how do we communicate that with other people and bridge that gap? So try and find something nice that you want to share with people, find a way to talk about it, find a way to share that feeling, and it'll be great.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Big thanks to all of our listeners and to our partners KFUG and Resilient Donatal for helping make these conversations possible. To learn more about what we're up to, visit us at www.resilientdonatal.org. That's DNATL for Donatal. Keep showing up, keep supporting one another, and we'll catch you in the next episode.
Bye.